Hello, and welcome back to Life as a Fitness Instructor podcast. This week on the podcast, I had the amazing Tyler, who is juggling working full time, being a group fitness professional, and has just finished his MSc in psychology. And he did a dissertation all about fitness instructors and their image and all the complications that comes with standing at the front of a class as a fitness instructor, and what people think, how we should dress, how we behave, and what's on our minds. What are we worried about? Are we worried about how people perceive us? Are we worried about our age? It was a fascinating study that he did, and he shares his insights on this podcast. I really hope you enjoy it.
Tyler, very warm welcome to the podcast officially. So Tyler is a part-time group exercise coach with 8 years of experience in the fitness industry. He recently completed his MSc in psychology with a dissertation titled, and I'm very interested in hearing about this, more about this, how fitness professionals integrate impression management into their professional identity, a reflexive thematic analysis. I hope I pronounced thematic correctly. Outside the fitness environment, he also works in higher education quality assurance and enjoys gaming, sports, and hiking. That sounds great. You sound like a super active person. So, Tyler, if we could start with, after that amazing intro, is there anything you want to add to that before we delve into things a little bit deeper?
No, other than to say it's very weird kind of hearing about myself in the third person. So when I was writing that, I should say, but no, that's pretty much exactly it.
Okay, perfect. So let's just start with, well, you said you've been in the industry for 8 years. Can you just explain how that all came about, really, how you got started? What's your story?
So this will be a very familiar journey, I would imagine, for most fitness professionals, really. I started myself just going to the gym as a participant. I started just going initially just within the gym floor itself. Couldn't really kind of get motivated to train just by myself like that. I found it quite, soul destroying, and it was very difficult to try and keep going that way. So then I thought, oh, I'll give a fitness class a go. There'll be an instructor there. They'll be there to motivate me along. There'll be other people there. Maybe I'll make some friends in that group. And it kind of all started from there. I had a fantastic time at those first few classes. And I realized I can keep coming back to this. This is really addictive and really enjoyable, much better than just purely going to the gym or just working out at home. So I kind of stuck with it. And I just found these instructors, these fitness coaches, just the most amazing people. And I just got this massive respect and admiration for what they were doing. And I thought, wow, this could be something that I could do. What an amazing job they've got. Is this something I could explore? So I kind of got talking to them, just asking them how, what's it like being a fitness instructor? What qualifications do you need? How do you get started? How much does it all cost? And just practical questions like that. But anyway, long story short, I ended up taking the training myself. Quite 8 years ago, you said. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. 2016. Ended up taking I started off with the level 2 group exercise to music course.
Oh, yeah.
Which it's a very common one to start with. Really tough. Wow, they throw you into the deep end with that course. That's for sure. That was pretty wild. Few days on that course, and really challenging. And I certainly had some thoughts like, what am I doing here? I don't have a clue what I'm doing. I'm never going to be able to pass this assessment at the end of it. I might as well just give up now and leave it to the pros. What was I thinking? But anyway, I managed to get through that. And then a few more qualifications after that. And then I started. It all happened really quickly, actually. Got my first class within a few weeks, kind of after doing those initial courses. And then I think this is going to be a very familiar story for a lot of us, really. Just kind of snowballed from there. You take that first class, then when that goes well, you get offered more cover or whatever, and eventually you get given more permanent classes. Before you know it, you've got kind of a jam-packed timetable, and then you start thinking, oh, how am I going to fit in the rest of my life around the work? So yeah, you have to dial it back a little bit eventually, just to actually have a social life as well as all that. But yeah, that's kind of where it all started. At the moment, I'm kind of juggling that part-time alongside and was full-time non-fitness job until very recently. I've gone from 5 days per week to 4 days per week to give me better balance. So I want to deliver more fitness material outside of that non-fitness job, and just have that really good balance between the two, whilst also retaining time, for a home life and family life and so on.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's really interesting you said that, because it's so important to do. And it's important to do a job that you find really fulfilling. But I know you said that you did get to a point where you feel like you took a little bit too much on. You had to dial it back a little bit. So how many classes are you teaching at the moment then every week?
Oh, this is going to sound like a pathetically small number for a pro like you, but at the moment I'm doing 5 classes per week. But at my absolute maximum, I was doing up to 15 at some points. And then when you're kind of doing that, well, at the time I was doing a full-time job as well. That was just, that was kind of reaching burnout point. I mean, strangely, like physically, you kind of feel, oh yeah, I can do this. And your body just quickly learns to recover and adapt. But I think it's mentally, it's where you start to kind of burn out. Well, for me anyway, that's where I kind of started to burn out more, and just felt that wasn't sustainable. And it was actually the pandemic kind of coming along, and obviously I, along with most of us in the industry, kind of lost classes temporarily during that phase. And that just made me realize, like, actually, this is kind of not necessarily a bad thing. I really miss the classes, but I'm having time just to recover and just reflect more here. And then post-pandemic, when it kind of started up again, I just was happy just to dial it back to a more manageable and sustainable number of classes. Having said that, I'm looking for more at the moment. So if any group fitness managers are listening,
Oh no,
feel free
I
to offer
think
me some more classes. But not too many. Maybe a couple more if would be good. Would be perfect.
I think that's a great number, because the thing is, when you're teaching that many classes as well, the things that you've got to take into account are getting to the class, the setup, the chatting to everyone afterwards, the preparation for the class. So getting your music together, learning the choreography. I know you said, oh, it's only 5 classes, but no, that's a lot on top of working 4 days a week. And I'm sure that sometimes, I don't know if this is you, but sometimes when you work 4 days a week, you end up almost pretty much working full time anyway, just kind of condensing it. But it's great that you've said that you're starting to find more of a balance, for sure. I know you said that you felt like you were reaching that burnout point, and then lockdown hit at a good time, and it gave you that chance and that space to reflect. What were the signs for you when you felt like you were experiencing burnout?
I think the big kind of red flag is when you've got a class coming up, and usually you're so excited to go out and deliver it, but when it gets to that point where you're feeling like, oh, I've got to go and do that again, that's probably the sign that you might be doing too much. You're risking kind of losing that passion for it, which is really important, because as you just said, there's a lot of additional work for a lot of us, which is unpaid, kind of on top of that, that actual delivery, the hour or whatever it is that you go and deliver the actual workout. So if you don't have that passion for it, then you're really going to struggle to get motivated to do that extra prep. If you don't do that prep, then it's just going to be, the class isn't going to be as good, and the participants aren't going to get as much out of it, and it's just bad for everyone, isn't it? So yeah, that for me was kind of that warning stage, that warning point. But yeah, I think that kind of covers it. I think for others, I mean, physically for me, I was okay with it. But yeah, perhaps for others, I mean, physically, if you start to feel like, you're picking up niggles a lot more frequently, and then you're just going out and working through them anyway, and, potentially risking making that a lot worse, turning that into a long-term injury, then that's a big sign you need to dial it back as well, obviously. So
Yeah, of
yeah, it's
course.
probably going to be different for everybody, but yeah, it is really important to find that balance and just keep that passion and enjoyment, because if you don't have that, then it's going to be really hard to go out there and give it your best.
Yeah, of course. No, thank you so much for sharing that. I didn't anticipate talking about burnout, but I think it's actually a really important subject to touch on because so many instructors feel it. And I think I was similar to you. I was getting to that point and then lockdown hit and it just gave me a bit of space. I was still doing quite a lot online, but in comparison, there weren't hour classes. They all of a sudden it was 20 minutes, half an hour. And it just, yeah, it gives you that fuel again, that passion. But I think it's very tempting, particularly when, if you're working in facilities like leisure centres and gyms, to take more and more and more on, also to make it pay. One, because you love it at the start, and it's amazing to get given more and more classes, and it gets really exciting. It's that snowball effect that you were talking about. But then also to make it pay if you want to make it a career. I feel like you have to be so careful. So I just think it's a really important subject to touch on. And thank you for sharing your experience. I'm really pleased that you're finding more of a balance now. That's great to hear, Tyler. So what I would love to know a little bit more now about is the dissertation. Can you tell us what you've been up to and what you found as well with your research?
Yeah, so I didn't mention it earlier, but the dissertation came about as a result of my doing masters in psychology alongside all of that I mentioned earlier. So that might have contributed to the burnout a little bit as well. Let's be honest. What was I thinking, eh? I managed it with much much of a struggle, but yeah, I managed that part time alongside everything else. But yeah, I was really looking forward to the doing the dissertation aspect of this masters, because we had free reign to choose a topic that was of personal interest to us. So I was like, yeah, I want to really dig down into the psychology in the fitness industry, and in particular with regard to fitness professionals, because I just find that really fascinating, just the mentality of it and how much we kind of have to juggle in this role. It's kind of, I suppose you can compare what we do with other teachers, instructors, and coaches in other professions, in terms of having to deliver material that we're hoping other people will be able to learn and emulate, and helping them to become fitter and healthier or whatever. There's that aspect of it which is quite similar to other professions, but on top of that, we're also managing a lot of other pressures and expectations in terms of how we should look, how we should behave, what we should eat, how we should train, and just there's so much to kind of manage within that. And the judgments that people make, that society makes, that our colleagues in the industry make about us, it's just all there, and it's all in the back of our heads constantly when we're stepping out into that role. And just taking a class, for instance, you might be stepping out in front of 10, 20, 50 or 100 people. There can be such like busy classes out there, and every individual in that room is formulating different judgments about you. You're up there, you're so exposed, you're so vulnerable, and you've kind of got to manage all of that. And our aim is, we want them to leave that experience, that fitness experience, with a positive impression. We want them to be thinking good things about us, because then they're going to come back, and that's good for us, that's good for them. They're going to get fitter and healthier. It's good for us. Our business is going to be successful. The classes will remain packed. So yeah, kind of that's how I got onto the topic in terms of identity of fitness professionals. Who are we? What identity do we want to have, and what do we want others to think about us? So that's kind of where I wove in the impression management theory kind of within that, as a framework to kind of explore that. So yeah, I was very fortunate for this research. I did a qualitative study which involved in-depth interviews with other fitness professionals, and I was very lucky to have willing participants coming forward for that. I wasn't able to pay them or anything. They did it, you know, purely, you know, through the goodness of their hearts and just wanting to give back to the profession. And, you know, they were also interested in you know, what would come out from it. So they're willing to give up their time and help me. So yeah, I essentially just asked them questions about their experience as fitness professionals, their thoughts on, you know, topics like body type, aging in the profession, clothing that they wear, their thoughts on nutrition and diets, and just they're kind of very open interviews really, and people were just able to give their frank and kind of honest thoughts on these kind of issues that affect us as fitness professionals. And yeah, then I was eventually kind of able to get to my findings using that thematic analysis you mentioned earlier. That was literally, how much time did I spend on that? The transcripts at the end of all the research, I literally had hundreds of pages to go through. So,
oh gosh, I can imagine.
Yeah. Qualitative research is quite subjective, but don't let anyone say it's not scientific or, you know, in depth, because wow, I can yeah, I can say it definitely is. I probably spent at least 100 hours just reviewing all that data, but it was super interesting, and there was so much that came out of it. But ultimately for my dissertation, because you kind of have to, you know, you have to nail it down to, you know, particular concepts that you want to focus on, otherwise you'll be writing forever. So I kind of had to pick a few things out of it to focus on, and what ultimately came out of it was I suppose how the ways our image as fitness professionals evolves as we get older. Another theme that came out was needing to be an authentic fitness professional in the way that we present ourselves. And then finally, and this was a big one, body image, unavoidably, you know, as I mentioned earlier, because it's such a public, you know, facing job, and there are those thoughts about how, you know, instructors, personal trainers, how they need to look themselves to be taken seriously. So that was kind of the final theme that came out of it, how those thoughts on body image influences how we feel about ourselves.
Yeah, because I mean,
I can talk all day.
It's such a fascinating topic. It really, really is. Because I think even when we do our training, like I remember looking at some presenters on DVDs, they're so polished, they're so chiseled. And I think you go into it, like you said, you're standing in front of everybody looking at you, everyone's eyes are on you, and I think you put the pressure on yourself to feel like you must be polished. I can remember when I started teaching, I would go in and I'd be wearing makeup, I'd be thinking about my outfit, maybe I'd have them laid out, and as the years have gone on, and I'm sure you're probably going to go into this anyway, I think people are appreciating and understanding that actually it's just good to be authentic, and people like people, and people want to resonate with someone who is normal is the wrong word to use here, but just someone who is so unapologetically themselves, and you don't need to turn up polished. And actually, if your hair's a bit out of place, or or if you look like you just got out of bed, and so do they, because by the way, it's a 6 a.m. class, well, great. I think people like that and will resonate with that and will come back for you, the authentic you, no matter whether you've got the latest Adidas top on or not. And I hope that times are changing to be more like that, because I think in the past, 80s, leotards, perfect perms, that's kind of where aerobics came from, right? And watching all the DVDs, the share step DVDs, everyone looks so polished. And hopefully now I would like to believe that everyone is being able to embrace the way that they look, dress, and how they show up.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you mentioned the 80s, and a lot of it just comes from that that initial, I suppose that was when, people started to get into group fitness. It kind of became mainstream, didn't it, with And there was Jane Fonda, I think, back then. I can't remember it personally, but I've seen kind of the grainy videos, and I think some people, and I think they're becoming increasingly in the minority, but some people still have that vision of that's what it's going to be like if I do a group fitness class. It's going to be really cheesy, and they just feel that they need to turn up with the leg warmers and stuff, and maybe some people do that in their classes sometimes, but it's normally just for fancy dress, isn't it? It's not just a routine part of the class. But yeah, they still have those kind of expectations. That's what it's going to be like. And in terms of the instructor, they feel like they're going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger or whatever, back in the 80s, and it's just completely unrealistic, to have these expectations. And it's not healthy, because like you said, that instructor is they're an individual person. Not everyone's going to look the same. Not everyone's going to have chiseled bodybuilding physique, because for what we do, that's not necessarily going to be a healthy physique for us to have. It might be for some people, and some people might be genetically more likely to have that physique. Others aren't, and it's absolutely fine, so long as we go out and deliver a good fitness experience. Then that's kind of the main, well, the most important part. It doesn't, how we look matters a lot less. And this did kind of come out of the research, actually. The people I interviewed, they do kind of reflect on and feel that constraint in terms of those historic judgments of how they ought to look, but it's kind of being positively or more progressively I suppose reconstructed in terms of as being more likely to embrace body diversity now, and kind of perceiving that as a positive thing to have in the industry. So if a gym's got a team of fitness instructors and they're not all, carbon copies of each other, they're not all totally chiseled, they look different. They're real, they're authentic, like you said, they're real people. And, for some people that might be really motivating to have a fitness instructor who looks like them. And they're like, well, yeah, if they're going out and they're embracing this positive, healthy lifestyle and they're managing it, then that's something I could do as well, and that could be really motivating.
So was there anything that in your research from the findings that you were quite shocked about at all?
I think the participants' thoughts in terms of the impact that age has on them in the industry, I found that quite, I don't know if it was surprising, but just really, really interesting. And there was a bit of I suppose there was a contrast, really. Not everyone agreed on this. For some people, getting older was perceived as a risk and something to be concerned about. And their worries were kind of split into two factors. There were the physical concerns in terms of, obviously, your fitness will deteriorate as you get older. That is just simply, biology. You just can't avoid that. So they were worried about that and the impact that might have on their ability to deliver their classes or their personal training, and obviously the judgments that people might have, if they don't feel that they look in the shape that they used to be. And like we talked about earlier, just kind of worries what people will think of them about that. But the other thing, more positive reflections on age, which was I liked hearing, was that it seemed as an opportunity to enhance their image. So getting older, you might be physically deteriorating, but mentally you're growing, constantly. You're getting more knowledge. You've got all that experience behind you. You don't suddenly lose that. It's there. You might be taking on more qualifications, but not only that, there's also, in terms of what clients might think about you, So there are, some people might be concerned about the negatives. The client sees an older person, they're not going to be as in shape, they're not what I need. I need someone young and super chiseled or whatever. But for others, they see an older trainer or an older instructor. Well, that person's, they've been doing it for a long time. They're here, they're someone I want to work with because they've got all that experience. They're going to know what they're talking about. And so for some people, they were like, well, getting older, that's going to give me more credibility. That's going to be good. So I was like, yeah, absolutely love hearing that. So that was a bit of, I suppose a bit of a contrast really between the fears about aging, but also, again, kind of reconstructing that as, an opportunity to develop the older you get.
Yeah, of course. Knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. That definitely. I mean, obviously doing this research, being a fitness professional myself, I was kind of able to empathize with a lot of these thoughts. Like, yeah, preach, that's exactly what I've been thinking. And, it's kind of, it's cathartic to hear, other people kind of just having the exact same thoughts about it. So yeah. Yeah, I mean, do you have any kind of thoughts about kind of any of these themes, in terms of, have you ever reflected on, body image or, aging and how that impacts you?
Oh, do you know what? It's absolutely fascinating. And I think it's something that crosses all fitness instructors' minds at some point to some sort of degree or level. And I think for me, when I first started, I was very conscious of my self-image. So I would turn up to class in a full face of makeup, and I'm not really a person who would normally wear much, if any, makeup at all. So I would be there with the foundation, bit of blusher, mascara. I'd be worried about if my hair was going to go out of place during the class. I'd be thinking that, oh no, I've worn this outfit at least, or this top at least 4 times now. People are going to start to recognize it. And I'd be overthinking everything. And on the side of aging as well, despite the fact that, I'm 30 now, I've been teaching classes for, I know I'm still young, but I'm just saying, I've been teaching classes for nearly 10 years now. When I first started, I was very conscious and very aware of the fact that what am I going to do when I come to retirement? And I was looking at ways to get a self-employed pension and worrying about my body. All of that was buzzing around in my head when I just started. And weirdly enough, as I've been doing it for longer, and it is the whole knowledge is power thing, I know so much more about the body, the way it works, nutrition, how we can recover, and how we can use our job to help us live longer, but also what we need to be doing the rest of the time to allow us to do our job. So getting that balance between rest and fitness, nutrition, etc. The more I've learned, the more I've understood that actually you can stay within the health and fitness industry for a long time, and people that different people are going to resonate with you at different times. And the thing is, you'll collect people on the way, and people will love your classes and they'll follow you to the end. And other people will connect with you at different times in your journey and in their journey. So when I'm teaching classes, when I'm 70 or 80, touch wood, I might have
Why not?
my originals with me, and then I'll resonate with people who are in that chapter of their life as well. So I don't think you need to worry about age. I do think knowledge is power, and I think age is a number. And I think as soon as you tell yourself you're old or you shouldn't be doing something, in my mind, that's almost when you allow yourself to be old. And I think age is how old you feel and how you perceive it. In my opinion, to an extent anyway. That's my idea. And with the whole, can you do you know where I'm coming from? Yeah.
I absolutely agree with that. Yeah. And what you said in terms of when you start out, you made a really good point there. You've got all these other kind of just these superficial fears going on, haven't you? That they don't really matter. But at the time when you're out there and you're first, you're delivering those first classes or whatever, you just feel so vulnerable. And you are, like you were saying, you're worrying about, what you're wearing and, how your hair looks or whatever. You just got all these superficial thoughts going on. And that really gets in the way of what is important, you know, that build that relationship with the clients, you know, putting on that really positive experience for them. So as you get older, you build that knowledge base and that experience. You can just let all that superficial stuff go, can't you?
You
Because
can.
you've just got that confidence then that
Yeah.
you know what you're doing, and yeah, you can just relax, I suppose, and just
I
deliver
think
what's
so.
important.
Yeah, exactly. And control the controllables and worry about what you need to worry about. And nothing else matters. You forget a step, doesn't matter. Your hair falls out of place, doesn't matter. You've worn that top 10 times in the past month. It doesn't matter. I mean, as long as you cleaned it in between. But like it doesn't matter. And I think now when I turn up to class and my hair's a bit out of place, I just like so is everybody else's. And I laugh it off. And if I turn up to class and I don't wear makeup, but no one else is turning up with makeup on either. And maybe that is like just being more authentic as well and allowing people to connect with you just because you're just a normal person. You're just like them and people like that. They want to work out with their best mate. They don't want to work out with a model. Maybe they do. I don't know. I feel like that's where I come from anyway. I want to bring everyone on my team. Come on, you're part of my family. We're all friends here. Right, let's get stuck in and then straight to the stuff that matters, and that's moving your body and feeling good. Forget about me.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that came out of my interviews time and time again was that people might come along to your class with a very, you know, based on a very superficial motivation to begin with. So, for example, that trainer or instructor might look a certain way that that participant, you know, aspires to look to. So they're like, I'll go and train with them because then I will eventually look like them. And that's absolutely fine as a goal. But what came out of my interviews anyway was that, you know, that will keep them going, you know, once or twice. But if that instructor doesn't have a personality that, you know, clicks with that participant, or if they're just not enjoying the way that that instructor, you know, delivers the fitness class, then they're not going to keep coming back. So that will get you so far in the industry, you know, how you look, but you know, it's limited really. What's more important, in my opinion anyway, is being able to build those relationships and having, you know, just it's that personality that's going to make people want to keep coming back for more. And that's just a lot more important than, you know, just the pure athletic look.
Definitely.
I mean, that might get you going initially, but you need more than that to progress.
I think so too. People want to see you and they'll keep coming back because you give them a little glimpse of you that they can resonate with, but also they'll remember how you made them feel. It's that saying, isn't it? No one's going to remember what you said, but they just remember how you made them feel. So you made them feel good, you made them feel welcomed, you felt good yourself after the class. And I think there is like a level with it. Obviously, we're not gonna turn up looking absolutely completely bedraggled. I mean, we might, but there's sort of a level, isn't there? But I think you just got to just be yourself and be comfortable in being yourself. And also look after yourself too, as we were speaking about at the start, making sure that you're doing it's all right telling all your participants how they should be exercising and eating and resting, but we've also got to walk the walk too. So it's about balance.
Yeah, you just absolutely nailed the other theme that came out of the research, actually. That those were exactly kind of the two, I suppose, sub themes that came out of that. So I mentioned earlier that need to be authentic within your fitness role. But yeah, kind of the two sub themes within that were being your real self, but also you need to be seen to practice what you preach.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
those two things are absolutely massive.
Yeah.
And yeah, being seen to practice what you preach. My interviewees had all sorts of kind of stories about, you know, colleagues who, you know, they'll be delivering personal training sessions and giving advice to their participants on, you know, I don't know, on exercise or nutrition or whatever. But if then, let's say, you know, they follow you on social media or whatever, and they can see that you're putting up pictures of, you know, you're smoking and drinking all the time or whatever, you just got to bear that in mind, that they're going to make judgments about that. Like, well, you know, you're telling me I need to be healthy, but you're not showing me that you're doing that yourself. So why should I take you seriously? Why should I listen to you? So yeah, that kind of need to practice what you preach is definitely really important.
We're telling our participants that you need 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night, and there we are going to bed after we've been binging on Netflix at 11 midnight, getting up at 4 or 5 to teach your first session or do your first PT.
I'm sure I've been guilty
dragging
of that
your butt through the week.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's true. Oh, well, so that's so fascinating, everything you've been doing, Tyler. It really, really is. But I would love to know, where's Tyler going in the future? What are your plans? What are your plans moving forwards in the fitness industry and or not in the fitness industry?
Wow, yeah, really good question. I wish I knew the answer. I'm not really sure. I mean, at the moment, I mean, I think we're all kind of striving for this, just that need to find a good balance in the role, and I'm kind of getting there. And as I mentioned earlier, I perhaps overworked in the past, and then I kind of adjusted. But at the moment, I'm feeling like I've got more to give, and I've got a bit more spare time on my hands now. I've gone from 5 to 4 days a week in my day job. I've completed this master's, so suddenly I've got all this extra time on my hands. So I'm getting a little bit fidgety. Like, I need to be doing something. Do I need to be taking on more fitness classes? Do I need to do more qualifications? I'm not sure. At the moment, I'm just kind of enjoying having that spare time back, because it's a luxury I've not had for many years. So I'm spending more time at home, more time with friends and family, which is absolutely great. But in the future, yeah, I'm really not sure. You touched on this earlier, and I don't want to end the podcast on a negative note or anything, but unfortunately, the pay rates in our industry make it very difficult to kind of have, you know, big ambitious ideas. You really have to factor that in all the time, which is kind of annoying. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to dive into fitness full time, you know, become a personal trainer, train, you know, have a bunch of clients, and then do my fitness classes as well. Probably be a fantastic life. However, it'd be a massive risk. I'd be giving up my day job, which is, you know, I'm not super rich or anything, but it pays enough to, you know, for my mortgage and my bills and so on. Whereas taking that jump into a full-time fitness role, yeah, it's just a big risk, and it's like, could I do that? I don't know. Which is why I'm so in awe of what you've achieved. I'm like, yeah, you're living the dream. It's super, you know, it's so cool, and you know, really well done on that. And I just love seeing your business just, you know, it's becoming so successful. So yeah, it's really good to see. It's like, yeah, one of us has made it.
Oh no,
it is possible. But you're braver than I am.
It depends what you mean by made it, doesn't it? Like you're absolutely smashing it. I mean, you've just completed a master's, you've got a day job, you're doing a job that you love with fitness as well. You're balancing so many different things, Tyler. So I really do think that you are smashing it. But thank you for your kind words. And do you know what? I actually have a day job as well. So I actually work in an electroplating company.
Wow, I didn't know.
Yeah. I've done it for quite a while, but I quite like having both because it allows me that space. So I'm a very busy person. I need to be doing something all the time, and it sounds like you're quite similar to me. But that it's almost like by doing something else. So working in an electroplating business, I'm taking a break from fitness. And then when I'm doing fitness, I'm taking a break from that. So it's yeah, I quite like it. I think with the fitness industry, it's the most exciting and amazing industry to be part of. And I think sometimes when it's your hobby as well, you can get completely enveloped in it all. So it's almost quite nice to have that thing, whether that's your family time or whether it's a separate job or a separate hobby outside of it. So when you come back to it, you've still got that burning passion as well. And that's the kind of place where I come from with that side of things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's hugely important. And it'd be one of my fears of kind of diving in full time, is just that thought of it becoming a job.
Yeah, you don't
And
want to do
a
that.
grind. And we never want it to be that way. We want it to be, a passion. And
Absolutely. Oh,
yeah,
well,
so
do you know what? If you really want to do it though, feel the fear and do it anyway, Tyler. Just go for it. Why not? Go for it. Or you could do it bit by bit, or do both and kind of have a few days at your job and then a few days doing fitness, and just balance those two. It's what I just think, life's too short, isn't it? Just go for it in whatever way you want to.
absolutely, that's so true. Yeah, I mean, when I first started, I never dreamed of kind of doing as much work as I've kind of managed over the past 8 years. I think when I started, I just thought, oh, if I just have one class a week, that'd be really nice. And yeah, they've done a hell of a lot more than that. So yeah, I mean, yeah,
Absolutely
let's see what
fine.
the future holds. But at the moment, I'm just enjoying my downtime.
Good. So you should too. Oh, well, Tyler, thank you so much for chatting to me today. I really enjoyed this. I really feel like I could chat to you forever about fitness. So thank you ever so much for coming on the podcast. And yeah, so for anyone listening to this, where can they follow you to keep up to date with your classes and your research and everything that you're doing in fitness?
Oh dear, this is going to go back to the age point again. I don't really have much of an online presence, really. So yeah,
You're on Facebook.
I am indeed.
Well, if you ever make a Facebook fitness page or an Instagram page, you'll have to let me know, and then I can reshare this podcast and I can tag that in.
I need to get with the times, don't I?
Do it, Tyler. Even if you make an Instagram account and you take a few photos of your classes or what you're doing, it'll be fun to see what you're up to.
Absolutely. This has been really enjoyable. Thanks so much for inviting me on. I really appreciate it. And it's been really good to talk about it.
Thanks so much for coming. We'll have to do another one.
Definitely.
Thanks so much, Tyler.
Thanks, Laura. Take
See
care.
you soon. Bye.
Bye.
I really hope you enjoyed listening to that podcast. Tyler's research is absolutely fascinating, and it brought up so many topics and so many things that instructors are struggling with. So I really hope that was a little bit of comfort for your ears. And also, if there's anything that you want me to talk about or chat about in future, please do get in touch at Yogascape Official. And until then, keep on inspiring and keep on sharing your passion for moving your body and feeling good. And if you enjoyed this episode, do like, subscribe, and share on your socials, and tag me in at Yogascape Official or at Lorna Marie Fitness. I would really love to hear your feedback. Thank you so much. Have a great day.